Shabbat Shalom. So, Marcel and I both have our IDF jackets on today because the Torah portion today, there's a lot of fighting. There's warfare going on here. So this is Lech Lecha, which is basically means get out of here. No, it doesn't. It's get yourself out. And it's about Abraham. So much is happening. And we have a lot to read. It's six full chapters. And of course, we will read all 6 chapters. So we need to get started here, but let's begin with blessing. Baruch atah, Yehovah, Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzavanu la'asok b'devrei. Blessed are you, Yehovah, our Elohim, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with commandments and commanded us to study words of Torah. Amen. Beginning with chapter 12 of Genesis. Bereshit, chapter 12, first verse. Parashah 3, Lech Lecha, get yourself out. Now, Jehovah said to Avram, get yourself out of your country, away from your kinsmen, and away from your father's house, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you, and I will make your name great, and you are to be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, but I will curse anyone who curses you. And by you all the families of the earth will be blessed. So Avram went, as Jehovah had said to him, and Lot went with him. Avram was 75 years old when he left Haran. Abraham took his wife Sarai, his brother's son Lot, and all their possessions which they had accumulated, as well as the people they had acquired in Haran. Then they set out for the land of Canaan and entered the land of Canaan. Abraham passed through the land to the place called Shechem, to the oak of Moreh. The Canaanite were then in the land. Jehovah appeared to Avram and said, to your descendants, the Hebrew is lesaracha, which means to your seed, I will give this land. So he built an altar there to Jehovah, who had appeared to him. He left that place, went to the hill east of Beit El, and pitched his tent, with Beit El to the west and Ai to the east. He built an altar there and called on the name of Jehovah. Then Avram traveled on, continuing toward the Negev. But there was a famine in the land. So Avram went down into Egypt, Mitzrayim, to stay there because the famine in the land was severe. When he came close to Egypt and was about to enter, he said to Sarai, his wife, "Hear now, I know that you are a good-looking woman, so that when the Egyptians see you, they will say, 'This is his wife,' and kill me, but keep you alive. Please say that you are my sister, so that it will go well with me for your sake, and so that I will stay alive because of you." When Avram entered Egypt, the Egyptians did notice that the woman was very beautiful. Pharaoh's princes saw her and commended her to Pharaoh. So the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. He treated Avram well for her sake, giving him sheep, cattle, male and female donkeys, male and female slaves, and camels. But Jehovah inflicted great plagues on Pharaoh and his household because of Sarai, Avram's wife. Pharaoh called Avram and said, "What is this that you have done to me? Why didn't you tell me that she was your wife? Why did you say, 'She's my sister,' so that I took her to be my own wife? Now, therefore, here's your wife. Take her and go away." So Pharaoh gave orders concerning him to his men, and they sent him on his way with his wife and everything he had. Chapter 13. Avram went up from Mitzrayim, Egypt, he and his wife, and everything he had, and Lot with him, into the Negev. Avram became wealthy, with much cattle, silver, and gold. As he went on his travels from the Negev, he came to Beit El, to the place where his tent had been at the beginning, between Beit El and Ai, where he had first built the altar. And there Avram called on the name of Jehovah. Lot, who was traveling with Avram, also had flocks, herds, and tents. But the land could not support their living together, because their possessions were too great for them to remain together. Moreover, quarreling arose between Avram and Lot's herdsmen. The Canaanite and the Perizzite were then living in the land. Avram said to Lot, "Please, let's not have quarreling between me and you, or between my herdsmen and yours, since we're kinsmen. Isn't the whole land there in front of you? Please, separate yourself from me. If you go to the left, I will go to the right. You go to the right, I will go to the left." Lot looked up and saw that the whole plain of the Jordan was well watered everywhere, before Jehovah destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Like the garden of Jehovah, like the land of Mitzrayim, Egypt, in the direction of Zoar. So Lot chose all the plain of the Jordan for himself, and Lot traveled eastward. Thus they separated themselves from each other. Avram lived in the eastward. Avram lived in the land of Canaan, and Lot lived in the cities of the plain, setting up his tent near Sodom. Now, the men of Sodom were evil, committing great sins against Jehovah. Jehovah said to Avram, after Lot had moved away from him, "Look all around you from where you are, to the north, the south, the east, and the west. All the land you see, I will give to you and your descendants, and to your seed forever, forever. And I will make your descendants as numerous as the specks of dust on the earth. So that if a person can count the specks of dust on the earth, then your descendants can be counted. Get up and walk through the length and breadth of the land, because I will give it to you. Avram moved his tent and came to live by the oaks of Mamre, which are in Hebron. There he built an altar to Jehovah. Chapter 14. When Amraphel was king of Shinar, Arok, king of Elasar, Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, and Tidal, king of Goyim, they made war together against Bera, king of Sodom, and against Bersha, king of Amorah. Shinav, king of Admah, Shemever, king of Sovaim, and the king of Bela, which is the same as Zoar. All the latter kings joined forces in the Siddim Valley, where the Dead Sea is. They had served Kedorlaomer 12 years, but in the 13th year, they rebelled. In the 14th year, Kedorlaomer and the kings with him came and defeated the Rephaim in Ashtaroth Karnaim, the Suzim in Ham, the Emim in Sevev Kiratayim, and the Hori at Seir, their mountain, all the way to El Paran by the desert. Next, they turned back, came to Ein Mishpat, which is same as Kadesh, and defeated all the country of the Amaleki, and also the Amori, who lived in Hatzazon Tamar. Then the kings of Sodom, Amorah, Admah, Savoyim, and Bela, that is Saor, came out and arrayed themselves for battle in the Siddim Valley against Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, Tidal, king of Goyim, Amraphel, king of Admah, and Arok, king of Elasar. 4 kings against 5. Now, the Siddim Valley was full of clay pits. And when the kings of Sodom and Amorah fled, some fell into them, while the rest fled to the hills. The victors took all the possessions of Sodom and Amorah and all their food supply. Then they left. But as they left, they took Lot, Avram's brother's son, and his possessions, since he was living in Sodom. Someone who'd escaped came and told Avram, the Hebrew, who was living by the oaks of Mamre, the Amori, brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, all of them allies of Avram. When Avram heard that his nephew had been taken captive, he led out his trained men who had been born in his house, 318 of them, and went in pursuit as far as Dan. During the night, he and his servants divided his forces against them, then attacked and pursued them all the way to Hova, north of Damascus. He recovered all the goods and brought back his nephew Lot with his goods, together with the women and the other people. After his return from slaughtering Kedorlaomer and the kings with him, the king of Sodom went out to meet him in the Shaveh Valley, also known as the King's Valley. Malik Sadiq, Melchizedek, king of Shalem, brought out bread and wine. He was Kohen of El Elyon, God Most High. So he blessed him with these words: Blessed be Avram by El Elyon, maker of heaven, of earth. And blessed be El Elyon, who handed your enemies over to you. He gave him a tenth of everything. The king of Sodom said to Avram, Give me the people and keep the goods for yourself. But Avram answered the king of Sodom, I have raised my hand in an oath to Jehovah, El Elyon, maker of heaven and earth, that I will not take so much as a thread or a sandal thong of anything that is yours, so that you won't be able to say, I made Avram rich. I will take only what my troops have eaten and the share of the spoil belonging to the men who came with me, Anur, Eshcol, and Mamre. Let them have their share. Chapter 15. Sometime later, the word of Jehovah came to Avram in a vision. Don't be afraid, Avram. I am your protector. Your reward will be very great. Avram replied, Jehovah, Elohim, what good will your gifts be to me if I continue childless? And Eliezer from Damascus inherits my possessions. You haven't given me a child. Avram continued, So, someone born in my house will be my heir. But the word of Jehovah came to him, This man will not be your heir. No, your heir will be a child from your own body. Then he brought him outside and said, Look up at the sky and count the stars, if you can count them. Your descendants will be that many. He believed in Jehovah, and he credited it to him as righteousness. Then he said to him, I am Jehovah, who brought you out from Kasdim to give you this land as your possession. He replied, Jehovah, Elohim, how am I to know that I will possess it? He answered him, Bring me a 3-year-old cow, a 3-year-old female goat, a 3-year-old ram, a dove, and a young pigeon. He brought him all these, cut the animals in two, and placed the pieces opposite each other. But he didn't cut the birds in half. Birds of prey swooped down on the carcasses, but Avram drove them away. As the sun was about to set, a deep sleep fell on Avram. Horror and great darkness came over him. Jehovah said to Avram, Know this for certain. Your descendants will be foreigners in a land that is not theirs. They will be slaves and held in oppression there for 400 years. But I will also judge that nation, the one that makes them slaves. Afterwards, they will leave with many possessions. As for you, you will join your ancestors in Shalom and be buried at a good old age. Only in the fourth generation will your descendants come back here, because only then will the Amori be ripe for punishment. After the sun had set, and there was thick darkness, a smoking firepot and a flaming torch appeared, which passed between these animal parts. That day, Jehovah made a covenant with Avram. I have given this land to your descendants from the Vadi of Mitzrayim, Egypt, to the great river, the Euphrates River, the territory of the Keni, the Kenizi, the Kadmoni, the Hitti, the Prizi, the Rephaim, the Amori, the Canaani, the Girgashi, and the Yevushi. Chapter 16. Now, Sarai, Avram's wife, had not borne him a child, but she had an Egyptian slave girl named Hagar. So Sarai said to Avram, "Here now, Jehovah has kept me from having children. So go in and sleep with my slave girl. Maybe I'll be able to have children through her." Avram listened to what Sarai said. It was after Avram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan that Sarai, Avram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian, her slave girl, and gave her to Avram, her husband, to be his wife. Avram had sexual relations with Hagar, and she conceived. But when she became aware that she was pregnant, she looked on her mistress with contempt. Sarai said to Avram, "This outrage has been done to me. This outrage being done to me is your fault. True, I gave my slave girl to you to sleep with, but when she saw that she was pregnant, she began holding me in contempt. May Jehovah decide who is right, I or you." However, Avram answered Sarai, "Look, she's your slave girl. Deal with her as you think fit." Then Sarai treated her so harshly that she ran away from her. The angel of Jehovah found her by a spring in the desert, the spring on the road to Shur, and said, "Hagar, Sarah's slave girl, where have you come from? And where are you going?" She answered, "I'm running away from my mistress, Sarai." The angel of Jehovah said to her, "Go back to your mistress and submit to her authority." The angel of Adonai said to her, "I will greatly increase your descendants. There will be so many that it will be impossible to count them." The angel of Jehovah said to her, "Look, you are pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You are to call him Yishmael." God pays attention. Because Jehovah has paid attention to your misery, he will be a wild donkey of a man, with his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him. living his life at odds with all his kinsmen. So, she named Jehovah, who had spoken with her, El Roi, God of seeing. Because she said, have I really seen the one who sees me? And stayed alive. This is why the well has been called Bir Lachai Roi, well of the one who lives and sees. It lies between Kadesh and Bered. Hagar bore Avram a son, and Avram called the son whom Hagar had borne Ishmael. Avram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Avram. Chapter 17. When Avram was 99 years old, Jehovah appeared to Avram and said to him, I am El Shaddai, God Almighty. Walk in my presence and be pure-hearted. I will make my covenant between me and you, and I will increase your numbers greatly. Avram fell on his face, and Elohim continued speaking with him. As for me, this is my covenant with you. You will be the father of many nations. Your name will no longer be Avram, exalted father, but your name will be Avraham, father of many, because I have made you the father of many nations. I will cause you to be very fruitful. I will make nations of you. Kings will descend from you. I'm establishing my covenant between me and you, along with your descendants after you, generation after generation, as an everlasting covenant, to be Elohim for you and for your descendants after you. I will give you and your descendants after you the land in which you are now foreigners, all the land of Canaan, as a permanent possession, and I will be their Elohim. Elohim said to Avraham, as for you, you are to keep my covenant, you and your descendants after you, generation after generation. Here is my covenant which you are to keep between me and you, along with your descendants after you. Every male among you is to be circumcised. You are to be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. This will be the sign of the covenant between me and you. Generation after generation, every male among you who is 8 days old is to be circumcised, including slaves born within your household, and those bought from a foreigner, not descended from you. The slave born in your house and the person bought with your money must be circumcised. Thus, my covenant will be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. Any uncircumcised male who will not let himself be circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that person will be cut off from his people because he has broken my covenant. Elohim said to Abraham, as for Sarai, your wife, you're not to call her Sarai, which means mockery. Her name is to be Sarah, which means princess. I will bless her. Moreover, I will give you a son by her. Truly, I will bless her. She will be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her. At this, Abraham fell on his face and laughed. He thought to himself, will a child be born to a man 100 years old? Will Sarah give birth at 90? Abraham said to Elohim, if only Ishmael could live in your presence. Elohim answered, no. But Sarah, your wife, will bear you a son, and you are to call him Yitzhak. Laughter. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. But as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I have blessed him. I will make him fruitful and give him many descendants. He will father 12 princes, and I will make him a great nation. But I will establish my covenant with Yitzhak, whom Sarah will bear to you at this time next year. With that, Elohim finished speaking with Abraham and went up from him. Abraham took Ishmael, his son, all the slaves born in his house, and all who had been bought with his money, every male among the people in Abraham's household, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin that very day, just as Elohim had said to him. Abraham was 99 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Abraham and Ishmael, his son, were circumcised on the same day. And all the men in his household, both slaves born in his house and those bought with money from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. Psalm 119, verse 18. Open my eyes so that I will see wonders from your Torah. Though I'm just a wanderer on the earth, don't hide your mitzvot, commandments, from me. May the Lord bless the reading of his word. That's the Torah portion. So, yes, you anticipated me. Would you like to ask a question? Yeah. That's great. That's great, because now is the time for questions. Time for questions, not necessarily time for answers. Okay, but we'll try. Okay.
Back in chapter 15, verse 9.
15, verse 9. Okay.
For the heifer, the female goat, and the ram were all aged 3 years of age.
Okay, yeah.
So the heifer, the female goat, and the ram were 3 years of age. And then it talked about a young pigeon. Why didn't it give an age on the dove?
On the dove and the young pigeon.
But it gave an age of 3 years of age on the other three, and a young
I'm
pigeon.
so glad you asked that question, because I can answer it. I don't know. Does anyone have an answer? We have an answer here. Maybe. Or another question. I don't know yet.
No, it's just a possibility.
Oh.
For instance, the animals, those are things that can be kept in captivity and you can monitor their age, but the doves, they're just, I don't think. Do you think they had pigeons, flocks on their roof in cages? Could have. That's just my 2 cents. It was 3.
How-
Archaeology has exposed the 5 cities of the plains, Sodom, Gomorrah, and the other 3 cities. It showed that the land they were on was never inhabited after the destruction. Even though each of the 5 cities had a freshwater spring that continued to flow. So they may have had shepherds stop with their flocks there, but no permanent habitation for over 4,000 years.
So what was a length of time that you gave?
4,000 years.
1,000 years?
4,000 years.
4,000. Okay.
Yeah. Zoar means little, and it was inhabited after that period for 4,000 years, and is still inhabited today. But the other 4 cities are not. Also, the Oaks of Mamre at near Hebron, that place has been excavated. The excavation showed the remains of the wood of the oak still in the ground. It's a variety of white oak. So that was verified as true in the Bible, based on the archaeology. I'm not challenging the Bible. I'm just looking at it as a confirmation of what the Bible says as true. So.
And, where was the location of this archaeological site? Hebron?
Yeah, Hebron.
Okay. Cool. Excellent. How many have been to Hebron? Okay. Very good. Very good. We have, the cave of Machpelah is there, where Abraham is buried with Sarah. And yes.
When Sarah laughed, when the theophany said that she would have a child, she chuckled and she got called out on it. But Abraham laughed and he gets away with it. Why is that?
That's a very good question. And I don't know that I can give an accurate answer to that. But as a poor, humble comedian. Yeah, and I call myself a comedian because people do laugh at me quite often. All right. So, but anyway, there are a host of different types of laughter. All right. There is laughter of derision. Nobody would laugh at me like that, but there's the laughter of derision or of I thought you were going to ask a question. There is a laughter of even joy. There's a laughter of making fun of somebody. There's the laughter of a type of teasing where you set somebody up by deception. And then basically the joke's on them because, why? Because they believed you. That's not nice, right? That's not nice. And people do think like that. Maybe even what they call it slapstick humor, right? Which, you're like hitting, and then people are laughing at that, and they think this is funny. So there's a wide different range of laughter. So I think perhaps there was two types of laughter going on here. That I would like to think that Abraham was laughing perhaps joyfully recognizing that if this is going to happen, it will have to be a miracle. But we think that perhaps at this point, I mean, he has trusted God for quite a long time here, right? He's 99 now. And he was 75 before God says, okay, get out of here. Right? Head to a land that I'll show you. Yeah. And so he's going out, he is going out in faith. Now some might say that was blind faith, but I don't think someone's 75 years old. That's that. And we do not know his previous history. Right? There's some in the Mishnah, there's some things, right, about that. You would like to make a, yeah. Donnie, please. Give him a chance to speak before. Were you signaling that I need to shut up or just bring the class to an end?
I'll make this as super quick as possible then.
Okay.
I was going to agree with you. It's just understanding the personalities of who Abraham and Sarah are. And if you look a little bit more into the Midrash also, we'll find that Sarah, she was, obviously the text says outwardly she was beautiful, but inwardly she also was very beautiful as well. She had a very dynamic personality. She was kind of an extrovert. She was very humorous in her personality, which would explain Abraham's laughing for joy, but Sarah almost having a sarcastic, comedic side to her is like, can you believe that I'm going to have a kid because my husband is old? And then when he...
Yeah, 10 years older than him even.
She's
than
like...
her, I mean.
And then when the husband...
Her, yeah.
And then when the angel calls Sarah out on it, it's very interesting that he says, why did you laugh when you said you were old? Almost like Abraham did not know that Sarah was laughing at his old age. But yeah, it comes down to their personalities. Abraham, he was a kind, generous man, but also Sarah, she was very humorous, very vivacious, full of life person.
Good answer. I like it. Okay.
One other note too. In the excavation of Sodom and Gomorrah, when they did the excavation, not only the bones of the people in the town, but the buried bones. They had large cemeteries and of thousands of people, and the bones were warped, and in order to warp a bone, the heat must be over 1,000 degrees. So the destruction of those cities was over 1,000 degrees from the sky, burning sulfur. Some of those sulfur balls are still remaining because they fell into water and were extinguished. So the sulfur bowls still remain today.
Thank you, John. Well, I know there's other comments, but we need to cut off here or else I'm going to be laughed right out of the building, right? Is that right? Okay. All right. So thank you for your attention. Appreciate it. All right. Shabbat Shalom.